Hey guys, I hope you all are having a super amazing week. Today I'm back with another story time video, and this is my crazy Uber ride. So basically, I was taking an Uber in Chicago. I was at my friend's house and I had to take an Uber to the train station. And my train was leaving at 9:32 p.m. and at the time it was 9:10. Originally we were just going to take a bus, but the bus was going to take 15 minutes to get there, and then it takes 15 minutes to get to the train station. So my friend was like, no, I'll just call you an Uber. And I was like, okay. And at the time I didn't have an Uber app because I didn't have enough storage on my phone. So she called the Uber and she did Uber Pool, because that's also less money if you Uber Pool with people. So then I get into the Uber and the guy turns around and he's like, hey, and I'm like, hey. And he was like, how are you? And I'm like, I'm good. And then he started driving. And there's another guy in the front seat and everything was going swell and dandy. And then he picked up another guy who was a little bit tipsy. You could tell he's had a little bit to drink. And we're driving and the tipsy guy is kind of talking to me. He's like, hey. And I'm like, hey, hello. And the radio announces Rihanna's new song, Sledgehammer. And the guy's like, oh, I hate this song. It's so slow. And I'm like, LOL, huh? And time is passing. It's about 9:20. And my train's gonna come at 9:32, and the other guy who was in the car when I got picked up, he left, and so we're just driving, and then all of a sudden my Uber driver is like, oh my god, I accidentally canceled all of your routes. And me and the guy in the back seat look at each other and we're like, what? And he's like, I canceled your routes, can you re-request me? And I was like, oh, I'm sorry, I can't do that because my friend requested you, so I can't re-request you, I don't have the app. And he was like, can you tell your friend to? And I was like, okay. So I texted my friend and I was like, hey, can you re-request this Uber? And she texted me back saying like, oh, I already got charged, money, and so I can't like re-request him. And I'm like, oh, okay. And the tipsy guy, the guy next to me, he's like, what? No, like I'm not re-requesting you, then I'm gonna have to pay you again. And then the Uber driver's like, okay, fine, tell me where you want to go. So then the guy next to me starts giving him directions, and the guy next to me like asks where I have to go, and I start telling him, and he's like, okay, we're gonna get off at the same spot, like I'll just tell the Uber driver where to go. And I'm like, okay, great, because I didn't know this area at all. And then the Uber driver just stops driving and he's like, actually, I'm not getting paid for any of this, so you know that, like, so I'm not gonna drive anymore. And the guy next to me is like, no. And then they start arguing and I'm sitting there like, I'm gonna miss my train. I'm gonna miss my train. And then the guy next to me, he just got out of the car. He was like, I can't do this anymore. He just got out. And I was like, no, because because now it's just me and the Uber driver, and I was scared out of my mind. And the Uber driver turns around and he's like, look, where do you have to go? And I was like, oh, and then I like put in the train station address, and as he's driving, he's like, I'm guessing you don't know anything about Uber because you don't know, but I'm not getting paid for any of this driving. And I was like, oh, I'm sorry, like, do you want to be paid? Yeah, I don't know anything about Uber, I'm from the suburbs, I'm sorry. And then he was like, okay, no, I don't want to get paid, it's fine. And we're just like driving along, and I feel very much tension in the car, so in an attempt to break the ice, I'm like, oh, so like how long have you been driving Uber for? And he was like, he didn't answer my question, but he did say, he was like, well, I only drive on Friday and Saturday nights, and I try to drive to pick up early to avoid drunk people like that guy. I hate getting customers like him. And I'm like, oh, okay, I'm sorry. And then he was like, where are you from anyways? And I just told him, and it's not like he's gonna know anyway. And then but then I started hyperventilating because it was 9:30 and my train was at 9:32 and I was gonna miss my train. And I was like, I'm gonna miss my train, and the train station doesn't have anything, it's just a train station, and the next train comes at 10:32, so I would just be chilling. I was freaking out, and the guy was like, okay, it says we're here, and we're in the middle of the street, but I see two staircases, and I know that one will lead to one side of the track and one will lead to the other side of the track, and I had to make sure to like go on the right one. So I'm like, okay, thank you, bye. It's like 9:32 and I'm running up the stairs, and right when I get to the platform, a train comes in, and I'm like, oh my god, like, please tell me this is my train. And I turned to this other guy, the only other guy who's getting this train, I guess, and I'm like, is this train going back to like where I needed to go? And he was like, what? And I was like, tell me this train is going there. And he was like, oh yeah, it is. And I'm like, oh. And I get on the train and my heart was beating like super fast for about 20 minutes. And yeah, that's my crazy Uber ride. Yeah, thanks for watching, and I will see you soon.